one of the key things for anybody that wants to sell, and I hope we got everybody, one of the key things, and this is something that we always, think about. Sometimes we wait for instructions before we actually start selling. Sometimes we wait to engage people and to look at people, and that's a good thing to have. Now, how many of you, and feel free to answer this, how many of you actually wait for people to invite you in before you start selling, or do you start selling automatically?
This is Mariela. No, I don't start selling automatically. I try to create a relationship and then go from there.
This is Raquel. I always feel like I try to win a friend. That's how I start. I don't know if I'm selling.
This is Stefano. Well, go ahead, Orlando. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, this is Stefano, and personally, I'm kind of like always selling, but it's really about building the relationship, with the person, with the end client, so they have trust, so they put you in the right place at the right time with the right people to really make the sale.
Okay, so in essence, one of the key things when it comes to selling is definitely building relationships. But as salespeople, because anybody that's a business owner, you have to identify with how you're going to sell, how you're going to, pretty much just build that relationship. And one of the key things is identifying what type of salesperson are you. And there's actually, I want to go over a couple of them. There's actually 4 that I use, and this is going to, of course, be, a general overview. There are some other people that come up with 7 or so forth. But there's 4 specifically that I use. And once you look at a client and once you profile them, once you understand the type of person that you are when it comes to selling, and there's 4. The first one is actually the hunter. And when selling a large ticket item, such as a big, let's say, software or building new business, you actually have this person that go out there because they go out for the kill. They go out there, they work the customer, they get the big contracts. And they're not the best at establishing long-term client relationships, but that's pretty much what the hunter does. The farmer actually cultivates long-term relationships with their clients, and you actually want clients that repeatedly contact this type of salesperson because you've actually built a relationship with them. The other type of salesperson is the scout. And pretty much what the scout is, when you're looking at new territory, when you're looking to go out and look into a new industry, you sometimes are tempted to send out your best salesperson to that area, but sometimes you actually need someone from that area because, they need to be familiar with the territory. If you don't know the territory, if you don't understand the client base, then you're actually, doing yourself a disservice. And then the last one is the shepherd. And the shepherd is pretty much the type of salesperson that no matter where they go, people are going to follow them. So sometimes when identifying yourself, are people following you? Have you had, a business beforehand or you work for someone else? And no matter wherever you go, you actually have people following you. So those are 4 of the actual sales types of people. And once you identify yourself, and once you identify what type of salesperson you are, it makes it easier. So how many of you would actually, let's say, be the hunter? How many of you actually go out there, you go for the big kill when it comes to sales? Is anybody on the phone that type of salesperson?
I think we can all be that type of person at one time or another in a situation or another as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. But I kind of feel like what you're talking about here is we also need to identify people in our organization that are these types of salespeople and kind of put them in the situation in order to grow our business. Does that make sense?
Exactly, because that's the thing that when you look at it, a lot of the people that I know that I work with, a lot of them are actually, they're across, and you can actually be more than one, Raquel, and I'm glad that you shared that. you can be more than one depending on the situation. You can definitely be a hunter. You can be a farmer. You can be a scout. You can also be a shepherd. And I'm more of a cross between, let's say, a farmer and a shepherd, because a couple of you used the key word, in when I asked you about describing one word, about your passion. A lot of you talked about relationships. So I think that that's a relationship, not only the relationships that you build with the clients that you're trying to sell your products or services, but, Raquel made a very good point where she talked about also that relationship that you're building within your sales force. You have to identify what their strengths are and come to grips where maybe you may have someone in your sales team that may have a better personality than you do. And they actually have the capacity to go out and build the relationships that you may not have the capacity to build. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. So how many of you actually can identify some of the people within your organization that may have, or let's say multiple people in your organization that may be fit this type of salesperson? And are you using them to their best abilities?
Yeah, this is Mariela, and yes, absolutely. Especially, let's say in my particular industry, because we have to tackle different types of departments. It's insurance, so retention, cross-selling, new business, they all require different fortes and a personality. And one of the things that I realized many years ago is that I had to let go and let them do what they do best. And I literally, just like you're saying, assign people to what's best, because I could tell you I'm not crazy about customer service in the sense of sometimes people are so rude, it requires that personality that could just overlook what's going on and really handle it properly. And while I know what needs to be done, that's not my forte. And being a business owner, that was one of my first, let's say, areas of focus, is placing people where they were best to acquire the outcome that I needed. Sorry for the long explanation.
No, and that's great. That's awesome, because I think that that's one of the key things with any business owner is actually coming to the realization that you have to change your mindset, because how many of you have been candid enough with yourself to be able to say, I can do this, but I can't do that? Listen, I am a great relationship builder, but I am really bad at closing the deal. I am really bad at asking for the business, but my business partner, he's great at doing that. So how many of you, can come to that realization also, which I think that, you talked about that, Mariela, that sometimes we have to be candid with ourselves. And how difficult and actually is it to let somebody else that has more talent than we are, to lead us as, or teaching us? Are you guys open to that, to have someone actually teach you even though you're the owner of the company?
Yes, sir.
We should be, and we are in class. I don't know if in real life we always are.
I know.
Possible.
Yeah, I try to, definitely. Read a lot of books on character building and certain things. You gotta get the ego out of the way. So I tried to work on that when I was younger. How I'm talking much younger. At 20, we think we know everything. At 21, we think we know more. At 29, we realize we know nothing. And that's just something that I did. Me personally.
And
somebody else was going to say.
In my particular business, it's more than create a relationship, because safety, when you sell, when you offer safety, people react, and you can even do business with companies. We are talking about big companies, and you can wait for 2, 3, 4, and 5, 7 years in order to do the business, because it's not easy, and you have to first create the trust in order to the customer. Trust your product is not going to cause an accident. You know what I mean? That is not for one day to other. You can spend a lot of time in order for these customers trust. I think that create a relationship is really important for my business.
Right. And remember, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. I'm finished.
No, somebody else is going to say something. Go ahead.
This is Raquel. I was also thinking that in his type of business, it serves a purpose not to have, as a salesperson type, a hunter. Okay, in his type of business, we don't want a hunter selling his type of business. You don't want somebody.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
It's totally true because, for example, the people in the industry, for example, shipping company or Steve Doran, you are dealing with the operation manager. This is people that make probably $350,000, $100,000 a year, $400,000. If you go and hunt and wanted to hunt the customer, knock the door, he's thinking, I'm not going to give this guy the business because if he causes an accident, I'm going to lose my job. So you have to create that trust, and believe me, that can take long, that 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years. You know what I mean? And that's a very good point to bring. Listen, I didn't mean to shift and change, but I know there's a couple of people that actually I heard, they actually were able to get on the call. And if you could just give me your name, the name of your business, and where you're from, greatly appreciate it.
Tasha Cunningham. I'm from the Emerging Leaders class in Miami.
Hello, Tasha.
Hello.
Anybody else? All right. One of the key things that you have to identify with that, and I'm glad that you guys, picked up on that. Once you realize the type of products or services that you sell, then you have to identify, the type of salesperson that you are going to go in and how you're going to nurture that. Because I agree. I think that with what you do as so you have to actually prove to the people that your products, that they actually do create a level of safety, and it's not going to be a safety that's going to be, a month, 2 months. Yeah, I agree that that's going to be, a couple of years, because they want to make sure, that no accidents have actually, been reported by way of what it is that you offer. So I think that oftentimes when it comes to your business, once you identify if you are a hunter, if you are a farmer or a scout, or even the shepherd, once you come to that realization for yourself, then you know how to identify other people and other traits in other people in order to generate some level of business. And that's one of the key things to the roundtable today. It's coming to the realization of who are you in the sales cycle before you get started. Who are you? Once again, I don't think that there's a lot of people that may be the hunter. You may be the hunter at the beginning to get, some type of connection with the person. But sometimes I think a lot of people go in and identify other areas. So how many of you could see yourself, let's say shifting, and, starting out, let's say a hunter and shifting and changing into one of the other, salespeople?
I think oftentimes you need both. Even in Alfonso's case, you say you don't want a hunter, but often you need the hunter and the farmer. You need someone that's not going to be afraid to go in, knock on those doors, start building up those relationships, and then become the farmer and build that up over 6 or 7 years. But if you're just a farmer and you never knock down that door, you never actually get the chance to plant the seed and grow the crop. So I think the challenge I have is not necessarily what type of salesperson I am. It's trying to get other salespeople in my organization to become either farmers or the hunter, when sometimes I feel that they're more of it's not even a hunter, an order taker, and just taking a lead and going through the steps and not becoming that hunter with the aggressiveness at the beginning, and not becoming the farmer of cultivating that lead throughout the whole entire process. And that's my challenge, is how do you get other people to become these types of salespeople?
I would agree on that one too, because that really is one of my biggest challenges is getting people's, mindset on bringing in the business because, and my company, we even offer bonuses, when you bring in a contract and you work it and you do the meetings and you bring it and you're basically the person who brought it into the firm. We even offer bonuses, but trying to get people to focus on that is the tough part.
Can I add to that, please? So I will tell you that you really do need to tie whatever sales behavior you need from your sales department into behaviors. And so that's very important. You were talking about the farmer and the hunter. Yes, that salesperson actually needs to be a hybrid. And so you need to be able to nurture and teach those skills necessary to be that person. Because everybody comes with, their own bad habits, so to speak. Some have good habits, right. Some don't. And so I will share with you that it was an issue for my company. And 2 years ago, I went ahead and brought in a sales consultant to teach my sales team the Sandler method of selling, because I, as a business owner, could not expect my salespeople to just know how to sell, and to know how to sell in a more professional manner. That is what I expect. High integrity, clear writing skills, clear speaking skills, very important. So that's what I did. I went, I got a consultant, I had them training, they watch videos, and they have behaviors tied into what is expected on a daily, a weekly, and a monthly basis. And that's what you have to do.
No, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Lisa, because I think that once you identify, let's say the type of salesperson that you are and the type of salesperson that you need, how are you going to actually empower these people? Are you going to provide them hands-on training? Are you going to provide them, because I think that what happens with a lot of, people, they may not know the ins and outs of your business the way that you do. And I think that sometimes for those of us, and I know that maybe I'm guilty of this sometimes, that I think something in my head that the person automatically knows what it is that I'm talking about. And it's almost like if I've had to sit back and I don't mean any offense by this, but sometimes you have to dumb it down for some people because they're really not connecting it. They're not really listening to it. So how many of you actually, let's say, that you identify these type of salespeople within your company, and you're willing to bring someone else? It's a standard thing. You give people advice, you give them advice, they don't listen to you. Then all of a sudden somebody out in the streets gives them the same advice, and they're like, oh, wow. That's their aha moment. They say, oh, I didn't know that. I never heard that. So do you think that it would be beneficial, once you identify this, to bring someone from the outside to pretty much repeat a lot of what it is that you're telling them? Do you think that there's value in that? I know that, Lisa, you found value in that. How about anybody else?
I found value in it, 100%.
I find value as well.
I think it's really important when you are going to hire somebody in sales. If that person in the interview doesn't listen, is not a person. You have a salesperson has to listen, have to hear, because when the customer is talking, you are able to see a lot of problems that he can just underground telling you. You know what I mean? So people in sales have to hear, have to listen. That's the most important thing.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. So who said that they agree 100%?
That was me,
100%.
Orlando.
This is Raquel. I also
hey, Raquel.
something else. I think that we really need to, as a business owner, identify our style, as you say, and that becomes the culture. And that's what we have to, if we even bring in a consultant and we're willing to invest the time to let them know what the culture, our sales culture, is all about. Because in thinking about this, we have some real sober businesses that need some type of, another type of sales approach. So we really need to define ourselves first and then have our consultant, if we're going to hire a consultant, pass that culture on to our salespeople. I don't know if that makes sense.
And I'm glad, and I'm glad you said that, because see, the one thing is that you have to definitely identify who you are, the message of your brand, your business. Identify you. What are your strengths? And I think that it's extremely important that at this level, you're going to have to expose your weakness. And, nobody wants to do that, any type of exposing, but know where your strengths are at, where they lie. And then once you identify those weaknesses, especially when it comes to the sales, I mean, I know a lot of people like me, they don't like to go networking. I mean, for me, I'm like, people tell me, let's go network. And I'm like, but I know that I have to do it sometimes. And I think that that's one of the key things, is making yourself self-aware of what you bring to the table. And then how do you transfer that to your actual sales team? Once you identify the type of person that you are, how do you actually, let's say, pass the baton or empower other people? Is it through training, or is it through maybe some other types of methods? Incentives, like you were saying, Tasha, you're giving them incentives, and a lot of times people aren't, biting, are those the right people that you should be giving incentives to? Or maybe they're just happy because they're getting a paycheck and they don't need anything else.
Oh, right. And that I think it's the second thing. And a lot of it is, they don't want to really go out and network. There are tons of networking opportunities in my industry. And, that takes effort, because they feel like, okay, I could be doing something else, but I'm going to spend 3 hours, networking. And I think that's something that they don't really like to do. And I think maybe I like the idea of bringing in a consultant. We've never tried that before, so I think that's something that I would probably do in the very near future to get them on track and do all of that stuff.
Yeah, and that's good, because I think that one of the key things, it's changing your mindset. I mean, it's also understanding that for us, a lot of things just become a routine, especially when it comes to sales. You go, you meet people, you tell them what they need to hear, you listen to them, because, Alfonso, I agree with you wholeheartedly that you have to listen. You have to listen, and people will teach you how to sell to them. But I think that you also have to come to the realization of what type of business do you want to be? And you want to attract the right people, and you can always attract the right people for the right price. But you also have to be very conscientious of, let's say by them coming in, how are you going to empower them by way of them going out there and selling for you? So a lot of it is changing your mindset. So that's one of the key things. So does anybody, let's say within the call, the roundtable, is there anybody that actually has something that they give to their employees when they first hire them? A manual? Do they give them any type of training? Or do you just let them go out and say, hey, learn as you go, and if you have any questions, come and ask me?
We have a manual.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just answering the question.
We have a training in my particular business. Just the salespeople, in order to go to the street, have to spend 3 months in training. No less than that, because I can't afford to send somebody that is not prepared. Because if he he's in contact with a customer, and the customer notice this guy is not, he's not going to trust. If the customer perceives that the guy is not ready or is not advising properly, that customer is lost. So training is 3 months at least.
Okay. And how many of you actually, go ahead.
Hi, this is Karen. I'm sorry. Basically, the way, I've been having a hard time. Like, I can do all the type of sales. I think I'm a little bit of everything. And because I can adjust pretty much to whatever the kind of salesperson that I need to become at that moment, depending on who I'm talking to and stuff like that. But one of the problems that we're having in the company is that we are in need of hiring salespeople, but I'm having a harder time identifying, because I think I'm trying to find people like me that is going to do it the way I do it, that is going to be able to switch from one, type of salesperson to another. depending on the situation, depending where we are and what we're selling at the moment, since we do several different, products and services. So, we usually, when somebody comes and starts working, I expect them to know. I will teach them the basics of how we do things here, how our process is. But at the end of the day, if I hire an embroidery person, I expect them to know how to hoop, to know how to adjust the machines, to know how to do certain things. And so we don't really give training. We only teach them how we operate, the system we have in place in order for them to follow when orders come through or we have to create something. So, and I don't think I'm very good at training people directly, because my biggest problem is that I expect everybody to know things the way I do.
And I think a lot of business owners actually suffer from that we believe that nobody else can do things as good as we can. Because, and once again, this is our baby. We don't want to, entrust it in someone else's hands. But remember that part of your growth, and especially for your growth plan, and for those of you that actually created your growth plan, you have to have a plan and you have to have a system in place that's going to help you escalate and take your business to the next level. And sometimes it's just coming to the realization that I need to learn how to let go and maybe have someone else, A, either train, or B, because I know that personally a lot of times, I want people to do things the way that I do it because that's my style. But one thing that I learned years ago when I worked with Sally Mae was that I had no idea, but I started going out with a lot of my peers throughout, nationally, and, in Puerto Rico. And a lot of people were bringing me in, and I never knew this until they actually confessed it, that I was their secret weapon. And they always said that the secret weapon was that I would come in, build the relationships, establish a relationship, and they knew that the people were actually going to call me. And as opposed to calling them. And they were the people that actually were in charge of the accounts. So that's one of the things that I asked you guys. Have you guys thought of maybe going out and maybe going networking with some of your staff? Have you thought of going out and seeing them in action, or maybe them looking at you in action and not trying to emulate you, but, pretty much understanding how you do things and maybe using their own style? Do you guys normally take out some of your salespeople? Do they go with you?
This is Raquel. I call it shadowing.
Okay.
When in the book business, it's such a quirky business, and we do so many events and things that do not seem like they're sales opportunities. I kind of when we hire people and train people, I actually don't train them on selling. I train them on my product of what I'm selling. We hire salespeople and people that I think are suitable they have the personality type of the hunter, that they're suitable for being salespeople. But the training comes from training them on my product, what I want them to sell. And then I kind of try to quantify, and after all, this is a business. So we say after a 3-hour kind of sales event, we should be quantifying it almost on a dollar value. And then I say, what we do at first is we shadow the people that are our key salespeople. We just send other people out in sales calls and in events and in the different situations where we can sell books.
Right, and that's good, because remember, how many of you, and this is just a hypothetical question, how many of you would do extremely well selling on the phone like the telemarketers that call you and sell? How many of you love that? Like you thrive for people to call you and try to sell you on the phone? Because I just like it. Because how many of you, how many of you like to be sold like that? Does anybody?
No.
So, I don't necessarily like that, but I enjoy when a good sales rep comes into my office and tries to sell you, and they're like trying to figure out what makes them good. Like, this person is really enjoyable. They talk enough about the social part, but not too much. And if you find a good salesperson, it's enjoyable to have them trying to sell you something, in my opinion. But it's hard to find those and employ those. That's what I'm finding.
Yeah, that's
Orlando.
That's actually a good point.
If I may, one of the things that this is Stefano, everyone. So one of the things that we do is that we don't like to look at our team as, like, for example, our sales team as employees, right? Because they're not. They're our friends, and we're in it together, you know, to grow not only our business but the businesses of our clients. But we focus on the client. I love personally going to see my clients, you know, with one of my guys, because it shows the relationship that we have internally, you know, that we get along very well. And we have, you know, also the hunter farmer analogy, kind of, you know, jumping back and forth between the two, and we really just create a bond and a relationship with the client, not just with one person. Because, for example, if for some reason I leave, you know, the relationship has been built with the rest of my team, you know. So the client is comfortable continuing to do business with us, even if the main person who brought in the account is no longer with us, because of the relationship that was built as a team.
Right, and listen, this is something that we actually think about also. How many of you are actually willing to also let go and allow someone else to handle an account? Because then you run the risk of, you know, being fearful that this person may want to start their own business and they want to take over, you know, your clients and so forth. And I don't say that to instigate, but I know that sometimes being candid with ourselves, you have to be extremely realistic with yourself. Maybe we don't train our people in everything that we do, because that may be that little bit of fear that person's going to take over and take our clients. Or we may sit back and have to rethink that maybe that person has a better relationship than we do. So a lot of it is pretty much changing your mindset and being candid with yourself, because sometimes we may have those I guess feelings or fears that we may have to address ourselves. You know, does anybody think that may be an issue also when it comes to training, that we don't want to give everything, or we have a certain way of doing things and they have to follow suit? Or, you know, what does your emotions as an owner of a company play when it comes to training people? Do you give it your all, or do you give it, you don't want to give your secrets away, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, this is Mariela. Hi, guys. Everybody in class, how you doing? So
hey.
Hi, man. So by the time I was ready to open up my second office, I had to do a lot of those evaluations that Orlando's talking about. And I was ready, because if I was going to grow, I had to let go. There was no other way to do it. But I put certain things in place, like the culture, the vision, the mission. We were all in the same place with the same ideas to where we want to take the company. And with regards to the training, I do about 1 month training and then about 3 weeks of hands-on. So where somebody, like Raquel said, is shadowing, it's either myself or my manager, and it's literally a day-by-day of what can happen. I also cross-train people. And the reason that I do that in my particular industry is because I find that it empowers them. I find that in my industry, if I can empower somebody, a lot of people want to take charge. And then with regards to getting people to sell, well, in the hiring process, you just have to ask a lot of questions and let the person talk, so that we don't hire someone that really doesn't want to sell, but they have an outstanding personality and they sell. But they don't like what they do. They could be outstanding and they could be friendly and they could be kind. They could be, all these wonderful things, but maybe not for sales. And so that particular initial process of hiring and knowing the questions to ask, like HR people do. HR people ask questions, and sort of us CEOs have to turn. Can you guys hear me? Us CEOs have to turn into HR professionals. We do. We need to know how to legally ask the right questions, get the right information, but without, per se, doing anything we're not supposed to do. And, basically what I think about the training process. Because some salespeople don't care about salary or commission, and that's where you need to know. So meaning if they're comfortable with the salary, but deep down inside they're really not salespeople, they're not going to strive for more. But if they just have a comfortable base, but they want to strive for more, then the bonuses become a real added value, but not because they're comfortable with their base. So, when it comes to sales, it's tricky as far as finding the right people, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, and how many of you have actually found that?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I got a point there. Well, in my case, you do have to train and with all the secrets you sell people, because if not, you are going to cause an accident if these people is not trained properly. But I just do the 50% of the main the key customers of the company. I just do business with them. Do not share with anybody in sales. So I just save in these accounts and then save this account to the company and not give it to the salespeople. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes. So, and I think that's one of the key things that people also understand that and remember, you may come in as the added value, because imagine a salesperson that's going out there and they're selling for you, and at this moment they're bringing in, and those of you that know me know I'm not big on titles, positions, and so forth, but this is actually an ideal time to be able to come in as the owner of the company, as the president, CEO, and what have not, to be able to build that relationship so that at the same time you can come in and maybe be the closer. And I think that's one of the key things to identifying any type of business for the sake of growth. And now, just on a side note, on June 7th, we are going to have that class, the alumni class, and we are going to talk about, HR. But one of the things that may be beneficial for you guys as well is, I don't know if somebody needs to get on mute.
Yeah, I was just about to jump in and ask that. There's a lot of background noise, so just if we could remember to mute our own lines, that would be helpful.
Listen,
Thanks.
It sounds like the movie Alien, where the creatures. But anyway, but one of the things that on June 7th we are going to have a class, and it's going to be focused on HR. And I think that's one of the things that also that you have to have something in place by, let's say, the employees coming in. And what it is that they're going to get by way of commission, but also you have to be willing to have them, protect your secrets of sorts. I think that's extremely valuable, where people have the non-compete, if they decide to leave or you fire them and so forth, because that type of agreement will assist and help you, and then it'll actually empower you to be able to give everything that you possibly can by way of the training, by way of empowering them. And I do suggest that you go out, with different people. Now, also, you have to think about the salesperson. Mariela said something that was extremely important. There are some people that don't like to sell, but my accountant, the person at the front office, they are phenomenal, because when I walk in there, they're selling to me by the moment that I walk in. And when I say selling, it's that they've built a relationship to where they know everything about me. They know everything about the business. They know everything about my business partner. They know when we filed, when we didn't file. And she's a person that there comes a point where we come in, we deal with her, and I don't have to go see the accountant, because she pretty much knows everything, and I am comfortable enough in that situation. But she's not the type of salesperson to go out and physically sell. So that's another thing that you have to look at within your own company. Who is that person that people, are being greeted by? Because even someone answering the phones, some people may even need training when it comes to answering the phone and knowing where to actually transfer clients and customers and who to talk to, because I think a lot of companies also don't understand that when you do training, you don't only do training for the people that have the sales title, you do training for your entire staff, for everybody, because everything that you do, everything that the company does, it focuses on some type of selling, some type of relationship building. So how many of you actually, have thought of including, other staff members in selling?
That's funny you say that. It's funny you say that. We've got a branch, and the person that answers the phone just is not answering them to our standards. So we're in the combination of training them and then also making all of our phone calls go to one center so that it's more consistent and they get the answers they want, because it is such a huge deal. I've got a question, Orlando. We've been talking a lot about training here, and to me it seems like the training of the actual product, and Alfonso goes through along training of the product, but that's kind of, to me, easy to do because it's technical. You train on all these parts. Can you train somebody to motivate them to sell if they're not that farmer, if they're not that person? I was kind of interested in what Lisa was saying, how they set behaviors. I'm not sure if she's got more to talk about on exactly how do you get those behaviors from a sales rep that you want.
You have to hold the feet to the fire. This story.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Say it.
So you just have to hold the feet to the fire. And so you will have to put together your list of expectations on behaviors, and then put that into your program. And if those behaviors aren't being followed, so X amount of outbound calls, X amount of email marketing pieces, how they touch the customer, follow-ups to outbound calls, follow-ups to quotes, those all have to be a part of the weekly behavior. If you don't get those behaviors, then you know this person is not very interested in staying with your company, because that's what you're expecting them to do, and that's part of the program.
Yeah,
that's it.
And then, I'm glad you said I was really expecting you to say tied to incentives at the beginning, but you didn't. You said tied to behaviors. So do you actually tie then incentives with that at all? Or,
there is an incentive, yes. So there is a commission piece to the behaviors. And so we battled with getting the behaviors. It took us over a year and a half to get the behaviors. And I will tell you, we're there somewhat, but it's really just constantly reminding this is a part of the behavior. So if you want to make X commission monthly, this is what you're expected to do. And so it's just all a part of the plan. And when those
then how do you track that? I mean, how do you if there's follow-ups and
okay, so we have a log system. So once a week, I receive a log on calls, and we also sit down weekly for a short period of time and just talk about how many calls were made for the week, what were some of the quotes, the prospects, and so it does take a little time, and I can't do it every week, but I do at least get to it twice a month, and so they know that this is what I'm expecting, and maybe I'll be out of town, and so I won't be in the office, but I'll still expect to get the log in my email inbox, and that's what's just expected. So and this all started with me going through this whole Sandler sales program, and it's really made a world of difference for our company. And for me, it's made me grow in terms of not having to be so micromanaging and getting frustrated. You get frustrated, and you're either going to do it or
and thank you for being candid. And thank you for being candid, Lisa, because I think that's where a lot of people are sometimes. They get frustrated. But you know what? And if I can share this, Lisa, sometimes we sit back and we share information, and we automatically assume that our salespeople are getting it. But Lisa, a couple of weeks ago, provided training for her sales staff on email marketing, on sending out, content, which I applaud you for, because that's something that sometimes the etiquette of people don't know, how to send an email, how to actually send, address, your clients and so forth. And sometimes it's just those little things as well that become the added value, because you can't expect someone to go out and sell if you're not empowering them, if you're not giving them the necessary tools, and if you're not actually have something in place where you're actually going to be looking at them and giving them, let's say, an update of, hey, this is what you need to do, and this is where you did well, this is where you didn't do well. You have to be candid with people and have some type of report, because then what we're doing is that our salespeople, we're not really setting them up for success. We're actually setting them up for failure, and I think that you definitely need to give them the tools in order to achieve that level of success that you and your company merit.
This is Raquel, and I think one of the things that we really need to focus on a lot of times with salespeople, because we look at salespeople and we look at in an abstract way, we really have to quantify it. We really have to say and let them know that we are going to be quantifying it as well as protecting our accounts. And then we can be completely generous with our knowledge of our product or our passion. I think when we either hire born salespeople who will sell anything, but then they need to learn about our product or what we're passionate about, or we hire people that are passionate about the same thing we're passionate about, our product or our services, and then we have to train them to be salespeople and quantify it at the same time so they know that the expectations are being met in a quantifiable way, in a dollar value kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key things. Also, I am a student, and I love to learn, and I love to be empowered, and I like to gather information. And for those of you that are alumni and that are current students, that just, that pretty much just highlights the type of business that you guys, want to create. Because I think that sometimes, we know what we know, and we've talked about this oftentimes. But I think that one of the things that we have to look at as, business owners is we have to be a good steward of our time as well, because as salespeople, I feel as though I have to do everything and I have to, create everything. And sometimes we fail to enjoy the simple things in life, like vacation. And a couple of people said this, that when they leave and they go out, for holiday, vacation, whatever, you have salespeople in place that your clients and customers feel comfortable enough knowing that whatever their needs are, they're going to be taken care of, even if they're not dealing with you directly. So a lot of that comes with not only the training aspect, but the relationship that you're building with them and making people feel reassured that they're in good hands, whether they're in your hands or in your business partner's hands or in one of your salespeople or actually, the receptionist or anybody in the business or in your business, that it doesn't matter, that they're going to be taken care of. Last year we actually had someone that came in and actually one of the alumni, and they lost a consistent account. They had the account for 12 years, and the person that answered the phone had no idea who the person was, and they wanted to talk to the owner, and the owner was busy, swamped, and instead of taking care of that client, they felt as though they were shunned. So why should I do business with you? I've been doing it for 12 years. And there was a couple of things that happened, following that. And they lost a client. And now it became an emergency to get that client back because that client was actually providing, not large, but they were providing a steady income for the business for 12 years, and it was a monthly income. So now it becomes a priority because the person that answered the phone, it put them on hold and really never took care of them. So it's simple things like that sometimes we can avoid if, as a salespeople, as business owners, we actually start identifying where our strengths lie, where our weaknesses lie, and then take the necessary action to actually succeed within the entire sales process.
That's a great point.
Make sense?
Yeah.
That makes absolute sense.
Yeah. I was going to say, this is Mariela, I was going to say something with regards to the selling portion of it. There's personality tests that you can have people take when you're hiring certain key positions. Obviously, sometimes it could be very expensive, so you don't want to do it in every case. But it will tell you whether this person is inclined to being in sales or if they're just not. They could be, like I said, they could be wonderfully polite and kind and well-looking and smell great and dress great doesn't mean they're a great salesperson. That's one thing. And another thing, in my industry, we have management systems that track people's sales. But, with that thing about that person that answered the phone, we have to have meetings all the time. In my industry, we do. And I'm in a place where I'm growing to another product, so that's my challenge there. But we have to have meetings to keep everyone focused on the overall plan. Because while that receptionist maybe feel like she's, what's her contribution? She doesn't sell. She doesn't manage. She's not the owner. If you don't keep some of these people that may be at another position still engaged with how important they are, somebody like that could make something like that happen. And, I'm sure we've all been there in some capacity.
I agree. I think that the important thing is, and in closing, because we've got about a minute and I want to be mindful of your time, everybody's time, I think that the important thing of any business owner is making sure that every staff, every employee, every hiree feels important and they feel as though they're making contributions to the growth of your company. The number one reason why a lot of people quit their jobs is not because of salary. It's because they don't feel like their voice matters. They don't feel like what their opinions matter when it comes to empowering a business. And I know that you guys may have employees that have been working for years, and sometimes it's just listening to their voice, and sometimes it's just, having them be candid with you where you're at and how they can help you grow that's going to give you a better insight to the type of sales team that you guys want to build. But it all starts by you identifying the type of salesperson that you are. So with that being said, we do have, and I've talked about this in the class, we have the summit that's coming up in September, and I think Laura's on the phone. I want her to make sure she tells you a little bit about it to highlight some of the stuff we're going to talk about. I'm going to do this workshop in depth, so I'm going to have slides. Yay, a PowerPoint. Yay. So Laura.
Yeah. Well, it's a good complement to actual conversation as well. But yeah, like Orlando said, there will be an opportunity at the summit to dive a little bit deeper into this topic. We also have a couple of presenters speaking more to that staff engagement that he was just referencing, talking about building company culture, developing high-performance teams. The majority of the presenters are instructors, just like Orlando, so they have a really good understanding of the class that you've been through, the process of writing your growth plan, and understand where you are in the development and scaling of your businesses. So a lot of the topics are very relevant to things that came up in conversation today. So it's a really wonderful opportunity just to tap into that instructor network, to meet other alumni from across the country, and to really build on what you learned in the curriculum. So we won't be so much revisiting modules from the curriculum, but really building upon what you've already learned. And I am so impressed with this conversation, I have to say. I can tell that you were all very good students and that you took a lot away from the class. So, thanks to you and thanks to Orlando for that, because it sounds like you've really adopted a lot of the material from the curriculum and the class and are putting it into practice, which is fantastic. Just another quick resource that I want to mention to you, since it came up in conversation, Mary Marshall is our Seattle instructor, and she actually led a webinar and a strategy roundtable call last October on hiring salespeople. So kind of where this conversation ended up leading, you can access both the webinar and the strategy roundtable call in the Alumni Network online. I'm happy to send that link to you, but she talks a little bit about like StrengthsFinder and some of those tools to assess your candidates, certain considerations when when you are trying to hire just that right salesperson. So I wanted to just draw your attention to that also. And I know that we're at time. This hour went by super fast. But Orlando, just a huge thank you to you. This has been a really wonderful conversation. Thanks for everybody's contributions. We'll make this recording available within the alumni network as well. And if there are any, follow-up questions, or if you're looking for resources, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me, with Orlando, to post questions in the alumni network. Really take advantage of all of those resources and networks that are available to you now as alumni.
And navigate. Make sure that you navigate. For those of you that haven't had a chance, when you go into the StreetWise Connect, make sure that you navigate, because there's a lot of great questions that are being posed by, some of the current students now. And there's a lot of great resources for you because, we're talking about growth, and we're talking about, taking the business to the next level. And a lot of it is just making sure that, there are resources out there that have already been created. So there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. And if you do start navigating I Connect a little bit more, you're going to find that you probably have a lot of your questions already answered by people that have actually experienced some of the things that you may be going through right now.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Orlando.
Continuing to be
Thank
in
you, guys.
touch.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
All right.
Orlando.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you.